Hey folks, in this video I'm continuing to put up meals into the freezer for the duration of Corey's surgery recovery. I'm using about a 3 kilo mix of beef and pork mince. I create a savoury mince base with heaps of veg and a few little tricks to really amp up the flavour. Then I split that base into 2 pots. One is flavoured to become a cottage pie and the other one into a bolognese, rock pile style, which then gets split again into just a spag bowl sauce and also made into a lasagna. Depending on portion size, these all together create between 24 to 36 serves. So let me show you how I made that happen. I do 2 different types of spaghetti bolognese. One is I think all the veggies, everything cooked for hours and hours and hours. And the other one I do is a quicker version, which has a few cheats worked in to give it like extra flavour, so you don't have to cook it as long. I actually pinched this idea from Marianne Gadsby's Her Best Ever Lasagna. I'll put the link in the description. Star anise, soy sauce, so you get the umami and also a bit of salt in that. Miso paste, bit of an odd one, but it works perfectly. And the tomato paste also, it's not an unusual ingredient, but it also adds that flavour. This one I'm going to do a little bit in between. I'm going to have some zucchini and some carrot, some mushroom, some onion. First thing I like to do is all my chopping so I can get all that prep out of the way. It looks like I went with 5 carrots. I was kind of winging it a bit for these recipes. Chopped into like cubes, dice. I prefer that over grating carrot in like a bolognese or one of these type meals. I'm also using zucchini, which I do grate only because dicing it doesn't create much of a textural difference. So I grate it up, it adds extra veg and it kind of just melts away into the sauce. And you'll see that with these zucchinis, they're a bit older, bigger ones. So I had to like scoop out those seeds, that like spongy, seedy stuff that was in the middle there. Once I've done that, I move on to my onions and garlic. Again, finely dice, and I just kind of finely grated the garlic. And then you'll see that I'm doing mushrooms as well. They just add that like an extra bit of kind of meaty flavour and texture. I like that in mushrooms, and they kind of take up the flavour of the other things with them. And these are the sliced mushrooms that I got in my Costco shop. I'm just like running my knife through it to chop it down into finer pieces. Next step is, well, this is the kind of browning the meat part, and you'll see that I just start with maybe a third of the beef mince, and I really give that like a hard fry because I want to get that like bottom side dark brown, caramelized, put in the onions and garlic, give them a little fry, and then I go in with the rest of the meat. It looks like a lot of meat at this stage, but that pot gets quite filled up with like the veggies and the tomato sauces and stuff. So I'm breaking that up, I'm moving that around, trying to avoid it stewing too much, although there is quite a bit in there. But that initial fry off of the beef is going to add like a little bit of extra flavour through there. Once that's kind of sealed, kind of browned up a bit, my next step is to put in the tomato paste. Now I don't know, maybe like a tablespoon or so for each kilo of mince, and I stir that right through. And this stage I like cook off the tomato paste quite a bit, so it kind of just really sets into that meat. And I raid the freezer for some extra veggies. I've got some frozen celery, which I had preserved when I got a bunch on special, just really easy to preserve in the freezer. It freezes really well. Chopped it up, blanched it, and then popped it into a Ziploc bag, and I can just pull out what I need when I need it. Here I'm putting in the star anise. Now keep in mind that this part of the recipe, I am just putting in the stuff that is going to go into both of the recipes, the bolognese and the cottage pie. All right, so I've popped in all the veg, carrots, zucchini, and the mushrooms are in there as well, and just stir that around, make sure it's all really well incorporated. And I think this is the stage that I actually decide, okay, this is where I'm going to split it into the cottage pie mix. Oh, what you can see in the background here is me doing Corey's bone broth. So he was having a cup of bone broth every day while in kind of during this recovery period. And that's a chicken bone broth. You can see it's really nice and gelatinous, full of protein and collagen, all that good stuff that's going to help him repair his, bones and muscles. So here I'm splitting off the meat. I'm probably doing a 2/5 to 3/5 split here, because I know that the larger portion is going to be a couple of lasagnas plus the spaghetti bolognese sauce. And this is where I'm kind of starting to differentiate the flavors. You can see that I've put beef stock in the cottage pie mix to add a bit of liquid that can cook down. Into the bolognese, I put the miso paste and the soy sauce, and now I'm going in with crushed tomatoes, and I've got a couple of bottles of passata as well that I actually got on special for 20 cents a bottle, which was fantastic. They've been so good to have on the shelf. I think I got like 20 of them. It was like one of the best shopping deals I've ever done. Okay, so yeah, now I'm going to start cooking things down. Obviously the bolognese sauce is quite liquidy, so that needs to cook down. The cottage pie mix is going to be ready first, but that still needs to reduce a bit as well. I'm adding some Worcestershire sauce to the cottage pie mix, just giving it that slightly different flavor profile to the bolognese sauce. So at this stage, they're kind of the flavor profiles are quite different. Add extra veg, some fresh frozen peas, Australian peas. You could put corn in here as well. I didn't have any, so I didn't. And this is just about ready to go into my containers there. And a quick little taste of how the bolognese sauce is going to see, what I need to add flavor wise. Okay, this is where I am at. That's still boiling away. Just cut and put on a pile of potatoes into salted water so I can boil them, mash them with some butter and cream, and then top the cottage pies with them. And I need to make some bechamel sauce for the lasagna part that we're going to use that sauce for. And at this stage, everything's kind of just sitting. I'm going to do a bit of a reset, a bit of a kitchen reset, have a bit of a clean because it's a mess. Alright, so it's been bubbling away for a while now, not like an hour. Alright, this is the texture it's at for almost 10 minutes. So they're getting there. It's time to make the mash. So what I do is I add in chunks of butter, stir it through just with a wooden spoon until all the butter is kind of melted through and absorbed before I start adding any kind of cream or milk or whatever it is that you want to do to kind of loosen it up or thin it out. For seasoning, I will use salt and white pepper, and I'll also pop in a bit of grated nutmeg just for that extra little elevated bit of taste. And yeah, and just mash it through until it's smooth. I don't get super obsessed with getting it perfectly smooth. It's a cottage pie. It can be a bit rustic. Once that's ready, I spoon it onto the filling that I had prepared earlier. Cottage pie is just the 2 layers, and I actually made quite a bit of mashed potato, so the top was like thicker than I would usually do it, but it worked out perfect. And I just rough up the top a bit so I can like sprinkle cheese on there, and when I bake it in the oven, it like falls down into the creases, and it's all like melty and bubbly and brown and lovely. To prepare it for the freezer, I cover the top with a layer of baking paper, and then I just snap the lid on over that. I find that it freezes really well like that, and it comes out and cooks up really well just with that preparation. Once that's cooled down, I'll freeze that. And to cook it up, I'll take the plastic lid off. I'll leave the baking paper on there, cover it in foil, just let it heat through, and then I'll take the foil off near the end and just brown up all this top bit. Alright, I'm just going to put these aside to let them cool down. I need to make a roux. Maybe that much. A few tablespoons. Now it's getting that kind of foam on top. Go in with maybe like 1/4 cup. With the sauce done, now it's time to construct the lasagnas. I know everybody has their own way they like to do it. I usually start with just a bit of sauce on the bottom, and then I just layer. So sauce, lasagna sheets, bechamel sauce, possibly with some cheese or some mozzarella kind of through the center of the lasagna. I've got like a few packs of leftover like grated cheese and stuff in the fridge, which I'm just using up on these freezer meals. I'm just making sure that as I'm layering it up, each time I put on a layer of lasagna, I kind of press that down so there's not a lot of air underneath, so it remains like pretty dense and well packed in there. My final layer is I've got the lasagna. I put on a layer of bolognese sauce, and then I topped it with the bechamel sauce and a whole lot of cheese. And on the very top I put Parmesan cheese, because Parmesan cheese bakes up so lovely and brown, and it's like the perfect finish on top of a lasagna, in my opinion. I prepare these for the freezer the same way as a cottage pie, just baking paper, and then I clip on that lid. I let it cool down, and into the freezer it goes. Then the leftover bolognese sauce went into these large freezer bags. I got 3 of these, and there was about 4 serves in each bag. This is the lasagna coming out of the freezer weeks and weeks later. The clip top comes off. And that's just to show you that the baking paper is still in place and it's not stuck down at all, but I'm going to keep that on when I go to bake it because I want to cover this with foil, and the baking paper is going to stop the cheese from sticking to the foil when it's getting all melty. Had this on 175 for a while. Oh, a few things bubbling. So it should be heated through. So what I want to do is remove the foil and remove the, you can see the stuff doesn't really stick to it. Oh. Now we just cook up until all the pasta and bechamel sauce all bubbles up and looks glorious. I'm going to set a timer for 30 minutes and we'll see how we go. Now, because I made these freezer meals to be used during a period of time that was going to be really, really busy for us, because essentially I was super time poor, I didn't actually get a lot of footage of what they look like cooked up. All us Aussies are pretty familiar with cottage pies and spaghetti bolognese and lasagna, so I don't think that's too big a deal, but I will try to do better in future. Rest assured they were all delicious. Hope you enjoyed. Till next time. See you guys.